Hello beauties, welcome back to the vlog. This week we are talking about advocacy and it's a big topic, but we're going to really narrow it down this week and talk specifically about how you can be an advocate for each other at work. And we're going to share stories with you from my career and careers of my friends and colleagues with you this week. So today I want to share a story about a friend of mine who was promoted to a regional director position, and she went from managing a handful of people to managing a large region where many people reported into her. And it was a big shift for her, not only in learning to interact with lots of different people who live in different areas and who think differently, who operated their part of the business differently, but also just the responsibility to take that on and to be responsible for the success of so many more people and to really be a leader within a company that was as large as the one she was in. And she started meeting with people. Her approach was to talk with people, get to know where they were having success, where they felt like they needed help, just listen with them and get to know them. And one of the people who she met with had been in the company for a long time and did not want to report into her. Not only did he not want to report into her, but he had been used to reporting to someone at a higher level than her role. She was in a new role in the company, and he felt like he had been demoted. But that was unbeknown to her, right? So she was talking with him, and he was very rude to her. He would refuse to turn in the reports she needed for her boss. He'd refuse to respond to her. He'd say things that were really rude and negative. And she finally went to her boss, who used to be his boss, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I really don't know what to do. You know, I've tried taking this person at lunch. I've called him. I've visited him. And he just doesn't want to take direction from me. I want to be collaborative. It just isn't working. I'm not sure what to do." And her boss said, "Well, don't worry, I'll take care of it and I'll address it with him, and you just keep doing what you're doing a great job." She said, "Okay." So she went to her boss to ask him to be an advocate on her behalf. And a few months later, they were all traveling together to visit one of their locations, and the manager who reported to her was there, and her boss was there as well. And while they were eating dinner, she was saying they were all eating dinner, they were talking about the success from the day, they had toured a couple of their facilities, and it had been a really good day. And out of nowhere, her boss said, "Hey," guy's name, "you got a problem with so-and-so?" in front of a table of 15 or 20 people at dinner while everyone's eating and drinking and having a good time celebrating the day. And she said she just froze. She froze. She looked around. Everyone was staring at her. She felt herself flush. You know how you get hot and you turn red all the way up your face? And she was horrified. She was horrified and she didn't know what to say and she just froze. And her boss said, "Because if you've got a problem with her, you got a problem with me." And while she appreciated that her boss had advocated for her in front of all the other managers who reported to him and to her as well, she was mortified that it was addressed in that way, because she felt like it had looked like, I was trying to think of how she said it, like she had tattled to the teacher, so to speak, and that then she was exposed. She was really exposed in front of her colleagues. And after the dinner, he said, her boss said, "Well, you see, I took care of it for you." And she's like, "Yeah, thank you. Wow, thank you so much." But she felt so awkward, and she thought, my colleague is never going to work with me again. It was bad enough before, it's going to be worse. And one of the other male managers that was at the dinner came up to her afterwards as they were walking out of the restaurant, and he said, "Next time you get stuck, come to me. I've worked with so-and-so for years. I will just call him. I know how to interact with him, and we'll make sure that he understands your role is really important and that you're valued." And he's like, "What really is happening here is this person feels like he's been demoted, and it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. His behavior has nothing to do with you or your value or what you bring to the table or your approach or anything. It all has to do with how he feels about himself and what's occurred with the management within the company." And that was a really pivotal moment for her in her career. She's in a different company now, but it really helped her feel like, one, that the other colleagues there were an advocate for her, and she did reach out to them in the future and they helped her, but also to understand that sometimes people's behavior that feels very personal, sometimes it's hard to separate out that personal from career, is not about us. You know, sometimes it's about how they're feeling. Usually it's about how they're feeling. And they're projecting their feelings and they're not able to name those feelings. And, you know, being accountable for how you feel and what you're thinking and saying and feeling is a lot of work. And being able to work on yourself and have that kind of clarity and self-awareness is hard to do. It's hard to stay there all the time. So I think that story is an important one because here she went to someone who is her superior, and he really felt, the interesting part of the story for me is that her boss really felt like he had been an advocate for her, and that he was trying to make an example to say, look, in a very public way, to say, I stand with this person and she's doing a good job. But it backfired because it wasn't received well, right? So there wasn't that conversation about, hey, what would work for you? What does advocacy look like for you? There was no conversation or communication about how to approach that. It was like, I'll take care of it. You know, and really having advocacy and finding advocates and allies within a business space is also about you taking responsibility, saying, here's what I think I need. Will you help me with that? So we'll be talking more about this week, more stories from people who shared about advocacy. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.